Not sure how to measure your internal communications? Prove the worth of your internal communication strategy with Contact Monkey's email solution, built into Outlook and Gmail. With Contact Monkey, you will be able to track and analyze employee engagement from your inbox. Start measuring email opens, link clicks, location tracking, and various forms of employee feedback, such as Employee Net Promoter Score. To try Contact Monkey's free demo, visit www.contactmonkey.com/ICPro. I'm Sarah Jackson. Welcome to Internal Comms Pro, the podcast. This season, we're closing the gap. I've tracked down the experts that can help us as internal communicators close the gap from where we are now to where we need to be. We're connecting the dots to drive value and lead from the inside out.
Pressure is a privilege. Don't underestimate the little victories you have internally and try them out.
If you can measure it, then you will always have a place at that table, because people know, that any time and money invested is being measured. Got to measure what you're doing, and that way people will take you seriously, and that way you will get more budget.
That's Corey Ketchikan, who they call the lead fungineer at Exemplis, the largest volume office furniture manufacturer in North America, and her technology partner, Scott Pielsticker, founder and CEO of Contact Monkey, a software company based in Toronto. Today, these two share how their innovative and entrepreneurial spirits empowered them to be okay being uncomfortable while taking risk and trying new things. We are going to learn how jumping in gets results and ultimately improves the employee experience. This and much more on today's show.
My name is Scott Pielsticker, and I'm the founder and CEO of Contact Monkey, and we're a software company based in Toronto, up in Canada.
My name is Corey Ketchigan. I'm the lead fungineer at Exemplis. We're the largest volume office furniture manufacturer in North America.
All right. Well, welcome both of you. Scott, I want to start with you. Our collective has been super excited to partner with Contact Monkey. You guys have come on officially as a sponsor for our collective, and it helps us be able to provide so many free resources. And we felt so aligned when we were talking with each other about our passion to really raise the value of internal comms. If you wouldn't mind, give us a little insight to your backstory and how you fell into this world of internal communications.
Yeah, great. And we're delighted to be a sponsor of the podcast. We love to help out the internal comms community as much as we can. So yeah, it's been certainly a pleasure to work with you, Sarah, and help out. So let's talk a little bit about the backstory of Contact Monkey. This is a company that I started just under a decade ago, so we're about 9 years old. And it was originally started, I guess the saying goes, to scratch my own itch. I'm a salesperson at heart, and I was always, interested in who I should be following up with next. So in other words, if I'm prospecting 40, 50, 60 people a day, obviously some people are more interested in my message than others, and I wish I knew who those people were. So it started with a service designed for salespeople. And we could tell sales teams, which of their emails were getting open, where were they getting open, on what device were they getting open, were they being forwarded. So it was, a terrific service for salespeople to be able to pick up the phone and call their warm or hot prospects, knowing that they seem most interested in what they've sent them. And then, it was probably about 5 years ago, we started to, see quite a few inbound inquiries into our support inbox. And it was from people with titles like internal communications specialist or employee engagement managers or corporate communications directors, and they were saying they're not as much focused on external communication, but internal communication. And they were wondering if we could help them, for example, track their Outlook distribution lists or their dynamic distribution groups. These were kind of terms I hadn't heard of before, and I certainly hadn't worked with the internal comms community, prior to getting these inbound requests, and it became quite interesting. And the more inbound requests we got, the more we thought, okay, well, let's start to look into this market. And we recognized a real need, in this industry for people, that want to design beautiful looking responsive emails. They want to send them, from their normal inbox. And, when I say that, I mean from Microsoft Outlook. And they want to track the engagement. They want to see, of the hundreds or thousands or even tens of thousands of employees, who's engaging, who's listening, who's not. And it was really at that point we decided to shift all of our attention to this internal comms marketplace. We saw it was in dire need of software tools to help them in their day-to-day affairs, and it was a large market. So about 5 years ago, we shifted 100% of our energy and focus into internal comms, and that's where we're at today.
I love that story. And I think our listeners who are largely in internal comms, they themselves are entrepreneurs, but are within their company. So I think they enjoy hearing the story of how entrepreneurs, are at the place and point in time that they are. So I appreciate you sharing that story with me. And I know we're going to keep diving into that throughout our conversation. But Corey, I want to toss to you now and hear your backstory. How did you fall into the world of internal communications?
Yeah, I would say by accident is the short answer, but the long answer is I actually went to college with communications in mind. So I have my undergrad in communications, my master's in organizational leadership from Gonzaga. So go Zags, if anybody's listening from the Spokane, Washington area. And I sort of bounced around through a variety of industries, doing a variety of things, some external facing, more customer focused on the technical side, and then found my way into recruiting briefly and started realizing how mission critical it was for the message that people hear externally about a brand to be the same as they experience when they get internal. And I found my way to Exemplis here. We're still a pretty young company, not quite as young as Contact Monkey, but only about 24 years old. And we're founder led still. So I came in with no internal comms platform whatsoever here. And about a year in, I said, guys, I think we really need to get clear and consistent on our message for our team. Luckily, our CEO has really bought into that mission, and we reached out to Contact Monkey, and the rest is a work in progress, but history, I suppose.
That's awesome. All right. Well, so tell us a little bit about your company, how big it is. I know a lot of our listeners like to know, okay, how many employees, how big is your team? Give us a little insight into the internal comms kind of department at your company.
Sure. Well, you're talking to the whole internal comms department. So for those who think they can't start with just one, I can tell you can. We are about 1,000 employees spread across primarily North America, but really the globe. So our headquarters is based in Orange County, California, which is super rare for a manufacturing organization. We're in Cypress, but we primarily manufacture out of Buena Park, which is just about 3.5 miles down the road. We have a facility in Tampa, Florida. Our sales team spread all across the US and Canada, a team down in Mexico, and a team actually in China. So when we start talking about internal comms, we're really talking about a lot of audiences. And one of the things I'm really proud of is the ability for our team to actually get involved in internal comms and provide some of the inspiration and messaging. And I'm simply just the facilitator, able to craft the message to all feel like us, and then use technology like Contact Monkey, which makes it super seamless for actually us to send things out to the team in a way that feels really true to who we are.
So I want to ask both of you, internal communications is now kind of thrust into this leadership. They always talk about getting this seat at the table. And now whether you know it or not, you're there, right? With COVID-19 and all that has happened. What do you see, Scott, when you're talking to your customers and just the world of internal communications? What do you see is a barriers that they need to be looking out for? You being an entrepreneur, I'm sure you're typically 10 steps ahead here. Paint a picture of what do you think's coming for the world of internal communications?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I completely agree with you, Sarah. The idea of whether they like it or not, they've got a seat at that table, and they're probably working with the CEO's desk, on a weekly basis, if not even more often. That's a big change that we're seeing right now for those people that have been, trying to be listened to, trying to get their points across, and trying to get momentum moving. It's happening, and it's happening right now. We're seeing so much activity within our customer base. Those people that used to send, one email maybe a month and a few tests, they're sending them, every 1 or 2 days right now. So the influx of usage has really just gone through the roof for us. And I think it's finally getting to the point where people are taking the communication seriously. It's not just an afterthought where those emails you might get once a month in your inbox with some nice graphics, whatever. It's not something that we pay attention to that often right now. With everybody working from home, everybody needs to pay attention to those. It's contextual to each employee. What's happening with my office? Am I going back to the office? Is my job secure? What about my benefits? So all these emails that are coming through on a daily, or weekly basis are just so crucial to the company, because nobody can meet face to face. So I think it's just becoming more and more important, that idea of employee engagement, when you cannot physically see your employees and chat at the water cooler, having the tools in place to understand, is your message getting through? Is it resonating? Are people reacting to it? What do people feel? How are they feeling? Can you get that two-way communication? Is just crucial right now. So whether internal communicators like it or not, they are the voice of the organization right now. Everybody is channeling the communication through them, in these uncharted times that we're living in.
Hmm. Corey, what's the new normal? I love hearing everyone's story because it's so unique with, the new normal. What's going on with your employees? I'm assuming they're all remote, and what's going to be happening? Are they returning to the office? What's your situation?
Yeah, we have a really dynamic situation, as I think most people do. We actually only closed our manufacturing facilities for 4 days when the pandemic hit here stateside, and had to reopen as an essential business because we fulfill healthcare orders, government orders, really essential things. So when we talk about building acrylic screens that separate nurses from patients, and building COVID units in hospitals and things like that. So we have a population that has been working from home since March, and we have a population who almost never left. That makes a really interesting internal comms dilemma. And how do you really message to two teams who are facing really different situations? But I will agree with Scott that what they're hanging on to most importantly is the basic need comms and the cultural comms. So there's the basic needs, like when are we coming back to the office? Can I come back to the office just to get something? What's the screening process like? How is my benefits being covered during this time? What if I need a leave of absence? Those types of things, all that has to be covered. Messaging from our CEO about the state of the business. But then there's also we actually like hanging out with each other. And now that we're going 6, 7, 8 months apart from each other, how do we still hang on to the values and the culture of who we are in the office, and not having that face-to-face water cooler interaction around the coffee machine or whatever it is? So we actually have always done a weekly comms to the team called Happening This Week. And it's literally anything happening this week. It can be really silly stuff like what food truck is coming, and it can be really important stuff like open enrollment for benefits or flu shot clinics. we've seen about a 10 to 15% open rate spike since the pandemic. And that just really shows you how badly people are craving that information and how much they're valuing it from a perspective of really feeling connected, but also feeling informed.
Yeah, for sure. I love that idea of getting on kind of a regular cadence to keep them connected. We just finished a huge series with Google and talked about measurement methodology and data dashboard. And I'm sitting here thinking some of our listeners are one man, one woman bands, and it's just them. So from a one person shop, with everything that you already were doing, and then now on top of it with COVID, how do you can you give insight, hey, if you are a one man band or one woman band, and in terms of measurement, talk about some steps maybe that you've taken to get there. How do you get from A to B? What's one thing that a small team could do to start measuring and to get there, and in addition to all the work that they have to do?
Yeah, it's a very fair point. And we have a saying internally, pressure is a privilege. And I think I'm feeling overprivileged right now, as most people are. So I can totally feel the pain of a one or two or three person show. For us, we started with no idea whatsoever who opened what email, what they did. And we only had been using Contact Monkey maybe a year before the pandemic hit. So we were really new to the measurement game as far as what does success look like for us. But one thing I have really encouraged our organization to do, and I think it's super impactful, is reach out to departments internally and say, hey, will you be a communication liaison for me? It's something we've tried. And I reach out to them once a month and I say, hey, did your team do anything super epic this month you want to share? And by doing that, we're connecting departments, we're sharing personal stories, and we've been able to measure interactions between departments a little bit clearer. So our sales team has been sharing life on the road in the midst of COVID. And that has gotten a ton of click-through rates. It's gotten a ton of emoji reactions. It's got a lot of anonymous comments. And then by being able to share that back to our sales team, not only do they feel intrinsically motivated, but they also become super creative in the way that they want to then share. So their visuals increase. They've gone ahead and made their own YouTube videos. And that's something that our external marketing team has been able to take advantage of. So don't underestimate the little victories you have internally, and try them out, share them. We do a lot of playing around in a sandbox here, and some of it has worked and some of it's been less successful, but we're able to use the metrics of Contact Monkey to really gauge whether it works or not. And that's been a blessing for us, to say the least.
Yeah, well, and again, that's why I love talking to both of you and to innovators, because I think you help change some of our psychology on what it means to be an internal communicator and an innovator, to get comfortable with that learning and that failing. Because it doesn't feel good when we don't get the numbers or the metrics that we like. But if we could shift kind of what those mean and that they're directing us, I want to talk about failure here, because I think this situation of COVID has thrust internal communicators into a situation of now you can try and test and get dirty and fail, and it's okay, and learn. Corey, I'll start with you, and then and to Scott, particularly when you were developing the product, has there been a big failure that you have launched? Because usually why I ask about these is it we glean the greatest learning and insights. Is there something you could share where, okay, we screwed that up, but wow, this is what we learned?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there are always little failures along the way. And when I was talking to our leadership team, our executive team, I said, look, we have never been into this place before. So it's not going to always be beautiful, although the product will always look beautiful, right? The templates are always going to look stunning because we have technology that equips us for that. But are we nailing it in the voice and in the content? We won't know till we get going. So there's been plenty of oops and missing of the mark. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest ones has actually been across locations. So we might share something that we think is really cool for the headquarters, and it actually creates a little bit of a cultural rub with our manufacturing teams or our remote team who doesn't get access to some of the things that we are offering at the headquarters. And honestly, it can be super small. It can be things like we put a farm to table vending machine in the headquarters, and our manufacturing team was like, we love organic food, where's ours, right? So it's these really little things, and the only way we know that, honestly, is the anonymous comments saying, hey, I'm not at a place where I get that stuff, and I want that for my team. So we haven't always nailed our voice and our inclusivity, but we're getting better at it. And a part of it is that communication liaisons. That's one of the lessons I learned is I've got to reach out to each of those locations and make sure we have representation there, because I'm not physically there, especially now. And we want to make sure we're telling their story and we're servicing their needs in a way that makes sense for them. So for all of those who have multiple offices, words of wisdom is to definitely have some boots on the ground there. Make sure that the comms meets their needs, but also their wants. They might have a unique thing going on, and sometimes it requires a whole different internal comms to them that's really special to that location. While more time, it might actually have a much bigger impact than the one you're sending out to the broader audience.
Ah, that's so good. And I love that. I love that tip of the communication liaisons because it sounds like it helps give you insight on making that information, relevant, and the content relevant. I love it. Scott, I want to go to you over, these years of developing the product. I'm sure you and your team have gleaned lots of insights from failures that maybe you've tripped up in developing a product. What were some of your biggest learnings when developing, the tool for internal communicators?
Yeah, of course. It certainly hasn't been a straight road to success, that's for sure. Anybody who's listening here that's done anything entrepreneurial will realize, it's not for the faint of heart, but it certainly is an exciting, an exciting position and job to have. On the technical side, what we would pride ourselves on, what I call deep listening, and that's kind of how this whole internal comms product came to be, is, seeing these emails come in, once every couple of weeks into our support inbox and tying things together to say, how many of these have we received, and recognizing an opportunity when it's kind of staring at you in the face, but it's surrounded by hundreds of other messages that may have come in. So it's deep listening is something that we certainly pride ourselves on, but it doesn't mean you always get it right. And it could be that we've listened to the market and we've come up with a product, and we chat with our customers and you unveil it and it's not exactly what they're looking for. And you never really know. You can have the best designs, you can have the best kind of product management, but until people start to use it in the real world, you don't really know how they're going to use it or how it's going to improve their workflows, or how it's going to help save them time. We definitely, as an example, our first version of our Outlook add-in had to be rewritten. It was probably 9 months of development many years ago, and we thought it was the right version for the right time. This is just as kind of Microsoft Office 365, which a lot of your viewers are probably using, was just coming on board. And, the product didn't scale. It was, it just wasn't ready. And so we had to go back to the drawing table, and we couldn't release it. Through our initial testing, sending it, to employee sizes of the hundreds or the thousands, it just wasn't meeting the needs of our customers. So, you have to bite the bullet. You have to rebuild and start fresh. Even back in the beginning, it's funny hearing Corey talking about our template builder. Back in the beginning, we didn't think people needed a template builder. This was something we launched into the market with our revised version of our Microsoft Outlook, add-in, and people kept saying, well, what about my templates? And well, there are lots of tools out there you can use to design your templates. We support them all. And as people said, well, we don't want to use those templates. We want an all-encompassing solution. And we tried to fight our customers and say, no, you don't. You really don't need that. But they kept saying, well, we do. So again, we said, okay, I guess we're building a template builder. So it's just this, People ask me what life is like as an entrepreneur, how I get through every day. Passion and perseverance are two words that always come to mind. You just got to persevere through these. You got to listen to everybody around you and make some decisions as to which people you're going to listen to and execute. But it can be tough. But you really have to be out there testing all the time. As you iterate on a new feature, you get it in the hands of your customers as quickly as you can, so they can tell you if it's not what they're looking for before we spend another 3 months or 6 months, developing it. So that's how we develop things now. We have new builds coming out every 3 weeks, so it's usually either once or twice a month. So we're constantly evolving the product, and some things will work and some things won't. But as long as we are perseverant, with our day to day, the majority, that will squeak into our product are the features that people are looking for, and the ones that aren't, well, we'll sunset them and focus on others. But it's it's just continuously trying new things, continuously chatting with your customers, and the right products will evolve if you keep your ear to the ground.
Okay, in this next part, Corey talks about how she coped with this year's pressure cooker situation. And Scott gives us 2 words that every internal communicator needs to say to themselves when getting ready to innovate. Remember, you can download today's resource guide at internalcommspro.com/show notes. Now let's jump back in. Yeah, I think that's such a great tip for our internal communicators to do the same thing, with their employees, and to constantly, be listening. Corey, I want to ask you, we talked about internal communicators kind of being thrust at this leadership table. Do you find that with yourself and within this, new normal, and what other things do you think internal communicators can do to help, elevate their strategy and status and go a little bit more, we talk about Internal Comms Pro. What's one couple of things maybe you've done to get to more of the pro side of that?
Sure. Yeah, I think I've definitely been thrust into the spotlight, we'll say, into the pressure cooker of trying to make some internal comms happen, to messaging happen that we've never faced before. Obviously, we've never been in the face of a pandemic, so it's a whole different ballgame, right? I also think the nuance of this time is that there isn't a lot of time to turn it around. So it's really a matter of, I want this message out and I want it out yesterday. At least that's the feeling we get here. We're an incredibly agile company, and also this situation isn't just changing constantly, right? So you don't get a lot of time to sit and think about the strategy and write 10 drafts and poke people about them. You really get only a few shots, maybe an edit or two before it hits the CEO's desk or leadership team's desk for feedback. The other thing is that can be an incredibly humbling process to hear all of that feedback come at once when you're trying to do the best you can with maybe limited information or extreme pressure. And so I think that's something to keep in mind for internal comms folks, is this is a really unique time, but also take some of their feedback and really do that deep listening that Scott mentioned, because that's actually at the core of what the leadership team wants forever. They want whatever voice they're talking about, whatever vision they're trying to portray. That is kind of our new normal. So capturing those things will make it much easier when the next comm request comes through. One thing that I found that kind of took us to the pro level is getting our executive team more involved with the ideation process, not just when they need an org comms, but saying, hey, where are we missing the mark? What audience do you think we're missing on your team? Who's not getting bought into this process, right? And actually what came back was middle management. And we thought, oh, crud, that's not a good group to be missing. So we started a bi-monthly comms just to our managers. It's called the Captain's Corner. It has what to know, what to do, and what to share. It's 3 simple things. They're bulleted. It's very simple. And I'm really proud that, after a few months, we're at 100% open rate and a pretty high click-through rate on that document. So it's become something managers are really relying on, especially during this time where they think, how do I manage a team who's spread all across the country, or some are working at the office and some aren't? What do I do about that? We're able to provide that sort of on-demand resource for them and hit them when we seem to have been missing them before. So that's really opened us up to being respected in the organization, bought in by the leadership team, and also I think it helps just in leadership development in ways we didn't really see coming. So it's a win-win for us.
That is such a good tip. The captain's corner. Tell me again, what's the three things you put in that? And would you be willing to share maybe a template of that with our listeners, what it looks like?
Sure. Yeah, it's really simple. It's just what to know, what to do, and what to share. So the what to know is, literally what you should know about the business. What to do is it might be actionable items like, hey, quarterly reviews are due. Have you filled them out? The really simple things. And what to share is, hey, we want you to share these things with your team. When you're in your tag ups, we want this communicated to the team or reinforced. So they know that the things to know and the things to do are really for them, and the things to share provide them a springboard to have a conversation with their team about a relevant topic. We have a lot of new managers here, so this has been a really good guiding principle for them to use as they lead teams in really uncharted territories.
That is such a great tip. I love that, and such an easy one to pull off. Do you have any advice to internal communicators, Scott, on to internal communicators of maybe what you've seen the pros do out there that kept them at the table, that kind of separated some of your customers, like, wow, that's a really great idea, or that's a great tip that you maybe saw a great customer do versus maybe some others that you saw?
I would absolutely. If you go back to one thing we mentioned earlier, if you can measure it, you can manage it, and if Corey can bring to the table the stats, and she was just mentioning the 100% open rate and high click through rates. If you can bring those stats to the table, everybody loves a number. How are we doing? There it is. Great. Or how are we doing? Okay, it's not as great as we want it to be, but how does it compare to the previous month? What's our goal for the next month? If you can measure what you are doing, then you can quantify what you're doing. You can quantify what a great job you and your team are doing with the communication. So I think if we focus on one word, it's that measuring. Measure everything that you can, so then you can demonstrate to the people, in the C-suite or at the table, here's how well our communications are performing. Here's the number of people or the percent of people that watched our CEO's 2-minute video, the kickoff to the quarter, whatever it may be. If you can measure it, then you will always have a place at that table, because people know, that any time and money invested is being measured. So it's kind of like marketing 101. If for all of us, I'm sure, who have gone through those, those classes, or gone through those, those textbooks of, what is it about marketing and internal communications? In my mind, it's just internal marketers. They're marketers, but they're not marketing externally. They're marketing internally. What is it about marketing 101? Well, you've got to measure what you're doing, and that way people will take you seriously, and that way you will get more budget. A lot of people come to us saying, "Oh, I'm not sure if I can get the budget." Well, it's tough to get the budget if you're putting something on a piece of paper you hope or you might expect, or these kind of question marks. But if you can put something down to say, 73% of our users are now reading our internal communications every month, and that equates to, in the case of Corey, that might equate to 300 of their 375 employees, something like that. Then that's measurable. So you've got to come to the table with stats. Everybody loves stats, to prove that how well you are doing. And if you can prove that, you'll get money for it. So that's how I look at it. If you can measure it, measurement equals budget.
What a great tip. I love that. Corey, if you could go back to your younger self here before you started in this world, what lesson or warning would you give your younger self?
Yeah, I think mine might be a little on the fluffy side, the warm and fuzzy side, but I honestly think I didn't quite realize how much internal comms was a storyteller and a historian for an organization. And I have come to realize that I'm truly telling our story as it's happening. And that when people look back at our comms, it's telling the story of who we were, what we were doing, and why we were doing it at the time. So that is something I have a ton of pride for, but also it was a realization that hit me recently. And I went, holy moly, if I had known that, would I have taken the leap, right, into the blind leap of selling the organization on something like this? And I love to do this thing at our company where at the end of the year, I actually collect all the monthly newsletters we sent out and put it into sort of a digital book, and people can read back through them. So what was happening in January, February, March, what messaging were we saying, what note to the team was going out. And people really love to see how far we've come, how much we've grown, how many people were added to the organization. So that's been something that I've really loved as a nice surprise. I think the other thing to keep in mind as internal comms is to preserve yourself in your work. A lot of times we become whatever internal comms our company wants, right? That becomes who we are, that becomes our voice. And to be able to step back and say, I am who I am, and this company is who this company is, and together we create this, that's really powerful. But it can be incredibly draining to become everything your company wants you to be, and to feel the pressure of holding all of the messaging in your hands. So be kind to yourselves first and foremost, especially during this time, but also be extremely proud of the work that you do, because it's more valuable than it's ever been. And to Scott's point, it will forever be that valuable, because we're not going backwards, we're only going forwards.
Oh, such a great tip on that. I haven't thought about that, but you're right. You could kind of get swallowed by being so immersed, in that work that you could maybe feel like you've lost yourself. So, what a great tip. Okay, so with you both being innovators, I know part of innovation is trying to get others to see. Um, things that you see that they don't see. And how do you both, Scott, as you're leading your team, as you're sharing with customers new visions or new things for the product, and Corey, with you innovating and continuing to kind of up your game, how do you maintain and get others to see a vision that they may not see? Any tips on that, as we have listeners here that might want to try new things or new projects or even new tools? How do they inspire a vision to their team and get them excited about trying something new? Scott?
Yeah, I would, two words, jump in. I love it. With every, there's so many tips and tricks out there, so many tools to help you be better at your job. You've just got to be open to it and jump in. We go back to the deep listening, and it's fascinating that the way that that this whole internal comms idea came to me was on a hike, and that's where I personally get my best ideas, and that's where the inspiration comes from. And there's a place in north of Toronto called Algonquin Park, which I've been going to for many years. And I was on a hike, and I kept thinking of all these internal comms, emails that had come in again every couple of weeks. And these internal comms specialists and corporate comms directors, and on a 3 or 4 hour hike, just started piecing it together, and that kind of deep listening and going back to, hold on a second, we keep saying no to these people. Should we be saying yes? Should we be jumping in and saying, yes, we can do that? Yes, these distribution lists, which I've never heard about, let us investigate it, because this is an exciting opportunity. So it's jumping in, it's saying yes, it's trying different things. Not everything's going to work. Or not everything's going to work the way that you might, that you might have envisioned. But if you jump in with open arms, with deep listening, it's just amazing what can be accomplished. So it's no different. These internal communicators, on the podcast, or like Corey, a lot of the times they are the intrapreneurs. They're the entrepreneurs within an organization. And similar to Corey, they might be a one-person shop, a one-woman shop over at Exemplis. And that is very much like an entrepreneur. When you only have one person, you're responsible, you're accountable. So, the idea of jumping in, trying things, being completely open, I think is just really exciting. And, that's how we look at things, is we always want to try, always want to listen. We always want to play, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work out, but if we keep trying, if we keep jumping in, great things will come.
I love that. Corey, what about you and your thoughts on innovation? How do you get your team, again, with being solo out there, if you be feeling like you're on an island, how do you get them to see what you see?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, to Scott's point, I have to be comfortable feeling a little uncomfortable almost all the time. Luckily, that for me means I might be doing something right, or I might be about to learn a life lesson. So either way, there's value in it. But how I always tell folks is I always need to hit the why and the so what. So if I'm pitching something, there has to be the built-in why are we doing this and for what or so what. So if I say, hey, we should do this really cool video series with our production folks, the CEO or my boss will always say, why would we do that? And I have to sell that vision. And then they say, so after we do that, so what? And I have to make sure there's more life to that than that individual idea, right? So it links to the next brilliance, and it links to the next why that moves the business forward. So always why, always so what. If I can answer those questions for myself, I am able to pitch it to the leadership team with a fair amount of success. If I don't come with the why and the so what, it's probably not an idea I've thought through strong enough to execute on.
All right. Well, last couple questions here as before we wrap up. Scott, I know that Contact Monkey sponsors, the podcast, and we always have your wonderful ads at the beginning of our shows. But in your words, give our listeners a little bit about what is Contact Monkey? What does your product do? So if they want to go, find out more, can they get in contact with your team?
Yeah, great question. So it is as simple as contactmonkey.com. That is our URL. So what is it that we do? We really focus on three things. One is, we help our customers, like Corey, build beautiful templates, drag and drop, no coding required, ridiculously simple, and we will actually help you design them. So don't leave it all to you. So we help you create that image that you are so proud of to send throughout the organization. And we allow you to send it right from your inbox. So you don't have to export stuff and keep lists in sync. We allow you to do it all from your inbox. Primarily, it would be Microsoft Outlook. So you can use your distribution lists and your different groups, send it to all the employees or segments thereof, and then we allow you to see what happened with it. Who is opening, who is clicking, who is reading, who is spending more than 5 seconds or more than 10 seconds actually on that email. And as Corey has mentioned a few times, we also allow you to engage. So it's two-way communication with your employees, not just, oh, great, we had a 70% open rate. It's, oh, wow, we had 79 anonymous comments from this email. So that's important. It's important for the employees to feel comfortable and confident that they can drop in a note, maybe a positive note or a constructive criticism, knowing that it's anonymous. So it's that two-way feedback of your employees being able to share with you back in California, Corey, what they're feeling. And they might be, as you said, they might be in China, they might be on the East Coast of the States or Canada. So, it's those really three elements. We help you design your beautiful looking emails so you look great. We help you send them right from your inbox, and we help you know what's happening with them. We provide you all the stats, all the measurement to make your job easier of getting that budget. So we provide you with all the tools to show you what great a job that you're doing.
Well, and I gotta ask, where did the name Contact Monkey come from? Did that hit you in the trails in a park somewhere too?
I don't think that one was on a hike. It's really quite a funny story, though. We were looking at combining these different words, and everybody loves animals in a company name, and so we were playing with a monkey in the name, and we're all about connections and contacts and all these things, and we were looking at names, and if you can picture this, a lot of these names might be $3,000 or $5,000 or $25,000. So these names that were bought up, a decade ago, maybe even 15 or 20 years ago. So it's tough to find a name that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. So we had probably 100 names, similar to Contact Monkey. and we were putting their price tag in a column. We're like, oh my God, these things are going to cost us a fortune. And then, we found Contact Monkey, and I think it cost $9.95. So it was one of these fun names. It was, everything that we do is fun and innovative, and so it had positive attributes to it, and it cost just under $10. So it was the perfect fit.
I love it. I love it. Spoken like a true entrepreneur. I'm telling you, I love that. All right, Corey, any other advice, tips, any other thoughts before we wrap up here, and encouraging words to kind of encourage the hearts and minds of our brothers and sisters and in the internal comms world?
I'm sending all my good juju and energy their way. Whatever company you work for, I know the challenges have been great this year, but hopefully the learnings and the wins have also been great. And I always thank my partners at Contact Monkey. So I'll send a little thank you to Scott for their platform and really helping us get to a level of nothing to a level of a whole lot in just a course of 2 years. And it's been really amazing what technology can do for this one woman show in particular. It's been masterful for us. So for my internal comms folks, you can do this, but take some time for yourself. Don't forget a vacation here or there, even if it's just a staycation. And to my Contact Monkey folks, I always appreciate their partnership and their continual innovation to release things that I didn't even know I needed until I see the email come through. And then I say, oh, shoot, I better add that. It's super cool.
Well, I love it. I love our partnership as well. And is it okay if our listeners reach out to both of you on LinkedIn if they've got further questions or just ideas? Would that be okay?
Of course.
Yes, definitely. Would love to hear it.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Corey. I love hearing from fellow innovators. It helps us all feel like we're not alone, especially with people that are alone on their own team. All of such great tips. And Scott, again, your leadership. Love working with your team. Love the partnership that we formed. I just love that we're all kind of aligned around this innovation and internal comms. It's an exciting time, and we look forward to where our journey will continue. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you having us on.
To download today's resource guide that will help you close the gap from where you are now to where you need to be, visit internalcommspro.com/show notes. And to try Contact Monkey's free demo, visit www.contactmonkey.com/ICPro. Stay with us as our journey to closing the gap continues next week.
Internal Comms Pro, the podcast, is produced by Super Awesome Media. Our theme music is Big Vision by Purple Planet Music. Don't forget to visit www.internalcommspro.com/show notes for our free resource guides. Thank you for listening.